Today we'll speak about when are you allowed to test God. There's a law in the Torah, you're not allowed to test God. But every rule has an exception. When are you permitted to play Let's Make a Deal? Remember Monty Hall, Let's Make a Deal? When can you make a deal with God? What? Tzedakah. Madua v'lama. So let's take a look at what the Torah sources say about making a deal with God, and also about Meiser. On what income do you have to give Meiser? On all income or not on all income? The difference between tzedakah and Meiser. Let's discuss what the sources say about making a deal with God, giving tzedakah, and giving Meiser, tithing. So let's take a look at our sources over here. The importance of tzedakah. You look, source number one. Source number one. The Rambam, Hilchas Matnas Aniyim, the Rambam has a chapter called Matnas Aniyim, Gifts for the Poor. One of the three signs of a Jewish person is Rachmanim, Baishanim, Goim Lechasadim. What distinguishes the Jewish people from all other people? We are Rachmanim. What does that mean? We have compassion, sometimes to a fault, even for our own enemies. Baishanim, we are bashful, or should be. Goim Lechasadim, we do a lot of chesed for people. Right? The Jewish people have known to be great balat tzedakah. So if you look at the Rambam, source number one, Ma'olam loy re'inu v'loy shamanu b'kahal miYisrael she'ein lo kupa shel tzedakah. The Rambam says, we never heard that what? There should be a place in Israel that doesn't have what? A kupa shel tzedakah. How do you say that? A charity fund. The Jewish people are distinguished. Wherever the Jewish people live, they always establish what? Soup kitchens, gemilas chasadim. That's a given. That's a given. Okay, so how much does a person have to give from his income? There's a mitzvah to give tzedakah, we'll see soon, but how much does he have to give? Is there a maximum? Is there a minimum? So look at source number 2. That's Tosfot Masechta Tanit. Aser to Aser. There's a pasuk in the Torah, Aser to Aser. In Devarim, tithe, you shall tithe. Why is it written twice? So source number 2, Tosfot. Hachi Aser b'Sifri. Aser to Aser is called to us Aracha Yotzeh ben Shana. The Torah tells us you shall tithe all of your grains and the crops. So let's say you're not a farmer. Are you still obligated to give tithes? Because the Torah says you shall tithe the grain and the crops of your field. So So the Torah only speaks about what? Tithing your crops and your grains. But let's say you have no farm and you have no crops and grains. Are you exempt? Ribbit. How do I know that even though any type of income a person has, not just crops or agriculture, he's supposed to give what? 10%. Talmud Loima Eskol says all. Should have said tithe your grain. What's the word kol? All. Huh? All the rabbis ribbit upakamatya. What does pakamatya mean? Schoira, business. So Tosfos in Tainus 9 quotes a Sifri that the mitzvah to tithe, it's not just your grain, not just your crops, but there's a mitzvah to give 10% of your stocks and bonds as well. Okay? So that's Tosfos quoting the Sifri. There's an extra word kol. Any type of income that a person has, even though it's not agricultural crops and grains or fruits and veggies, from all of his income he has to give what? 10%. Okay? Source number 3. Another midrashic source, Psikta de Rav Kahana. Why is it written Aser to Aser? In Deuteronomy 14, it's written tithe, you shall tithe. Why is it written buddy twice? Shaloi techsa. What does that mean? Right? Aser shetis asher. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, aser et sheli, if you give 10% for me, what's for me? For poor people. V'ani aser shalcha. What does that mean? Then I will what? Take care of you. God says, you take care of my people. Yaakov, who's God's people? The poor, the destitute, the down and out. Then God says what? I will take care of your people. Who are your people? Your family. Right? Eskol. Okay. So there's a mitzvah to what? Aser te aser. Tithe you shall tithe. And then it also says, Pesach tiftach as yatcha, open up your hand to a poor person. Why does it say, open up your hand to a poor person? Tithe, you shall tithe. Open up your hand to a poor person. Give tithe. Why is it written the double expression? Pesach tiftach as yatcha, open up your hand. Tithe, your tithe. So the Gemara tells us, in Bava Basra, it's hard to open up your hand, right? It's hard. Some people just, a baby is born with a clenched fist. When a person dies, his hand is open, right? So the Talmud explains, if a person just gives tzedakah, he doesn't say anything, he just gives tzedakah, he gets 6 brachos. But when he gives tzedakah, he adds a kind word, words of encouragement. Then he gets how many brachas, Gershom? 11. So, P'toyach tiftach, open up your hand. Not just your wallet, open up your mouth. Give the ani a kind word of encouragement. Give him a shmeichel. So therefore it's written in Pamayim. Tithe, open up your hand. If you just give tzedakah without saying a kind word, you get only 6 brachas. If you open up your hand and say a kind word of encouragement, then you get how many brachas, Rachmiel? 11.
Amazingly, 5 fingers too. So 5 is 11.
Isn't that incredible? So therefore, double expression, when it comes to tzedakah, that a person should also do a chesed with his facial expression. Some people give you tzedakah with a sour look on the face. Right? You should give a shmeichel. Because the Talmud says more than the balabayas does for the ani does for the balabayas. When you're giving poor money to a poor person, who's doing a favor to whom? So I think I'm doing the poor person a favor, but actually he's what? He's doing me a favor for accepting it. How do I know that? I'm a text man. It's a good thing you came today. If you look at Megillat Ruth, I don't have it on your paper, but you get home, you check Megillat Ruth. Ruth comes home with all of these goodies, the grain, the bounty that she got from Boaz. So Naomi asked her, who did this great chesed for you, giving you this, what's it called, the bonanza? The mother lode of all goodies she came home with. So Naomi asked Ruth, the name of the man that did chesed for you, what's his name? Do you know what she says? The name of the man that I did chesed for, his name is Boaz. Girl, take a pill and lie down. You've been out in the sun too long. I asked you, give me the name of the man that did chesed for you, brought all of these goodies home. So Ruth says, the name of the man that I did chesed for, his name is Boaz. Say what, girl? So Talmud learns from here that more than the guy who writes the check does for the ani by accepting. Because the guy who gives the ani money, right? That money will be spent in a day, in a week. Right? So he gives the money to the poor person. He buys himself what he needs, but then the money is spent. But the chesed that this person does, that he gave the ani money, that chesed is forever. It's not spent. So Ruth said, the name of the man that I did chesed for him is Boaz. Because the food that he gave us will be gone in a day or two. Or a week. But by accepting it, I'm giving Boaz what? Eternity. I did him a favor, that I accepted the goodies. That's the Jewish attitude, Yaakov, to what? To tzedakah. To tzedakah. Aser te aser. And therefore, look at source number 4. Sefer Hasidim, there's a posuk in Malachi. Hevi es kol ha'maisel beis ha'oitzer, v'chanonin lo b'zois. God says, bring your tithes, give your tithes, and you can test me. You hear this? Normally, you're not allowed to test God. So the Sefer Hasidim says in source number 4, Godel ha'foshes ma'aser. Look how great it is to give tithes of your income. Shomer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'chanoni. Test me. B'chol devarim, I'm reading source number 4, Yaakov. B'chol devarim acherim, asol anasod. All other mitzvot, you're not allowed to test God. I'll put on tefillin, shall become a millionaire. You're allowed to do that? I'll keep kosher, you'll give me what? The bonanza. No, shenem as a posik in Deuteronomy 6, lo tinasu Hashem alakeichem. You're not allowed to test God. But every rule has what? An exception. Maisa ani. But when it comes to giving 10% to the poor person, Lo says la'aniyim, maisa mikol ashir v'chodim. You give poor person from all that you what? Earn, whether it's ribbit, right? You invest your money, you get a return. Lahaskir et atzmo mikol advarim. The person has revach, even babysitting money, right? Whatever income you have, you're supposed to give 10%, right? You're supposed to give 10%.
Not of assets, just of income.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Okay? Don't steal my thunder, Yehuda. We're going to talk about that. Okay? They asked Rothschild how much money he has. I think the Queen of England asked him. So, Sonia, he gave a sum. She said, come on, that's all you have? I know you have a lot more. He said, you asked me how much I have. What I have in the bank is not mine, because it's not mine. After 120, the Yorshim take over, right? You asked me what's mine. I told you what I gave for tzedakah. So even though he had $10 million in the bank, the Queen of England asked him how much he has. What's 10% of 10 million?
1 million.
I have $1 million, or 1 million pounds. Come on, she said. The Queen said, come on, Mr. Rothschild. I know you have 10 million pounds. If I tell you only have 1 million pounds, you asked me what I have. The 10 million in the bank, that ain't mine, Sonia. After 120, the children will come to the lawyer's office to fight over it. Right? Who gets what? That's what Rabbi Wine would say, take my advice and die poor. Rabbi Wine would say that. Otherwise, the children will fight over it. Many families, they fight. But the £1 million that I gave for tzedakah, that's what I have. That's what I have. What you give for charity, you take with you. Who said you can't take it with you? Jack Benny said, if I can't take it with me, I'm not going. Jack Benny, but he went anyway. But you can't take it with you. The money you give for tzedakah, you take with you. It's a posuk. Look at the end of source number 4, Yehuda. See, it says, Bamidbar Hey, Vishas Kedoshav Lo Yeh. The end of source number 4, it's underlined. The posuk in Bamidbar Hey in parentheses. You see that, Yaakov? Vishas Kedoshav Lo Yeh. A person who gives his holy tithes, Lo Yeh, it belongs to him. What does that mean? Bamidbar 5 says, Vishas Kedoshav, the end of source number 4. A man who gives his holy tithes, Lo Yeh, it belongs to him. What does that mean, Shelley? If I'm giving away my gift, what do you mean it belongs to me? That's Rothschild. What I give away for tzedakah, Lo Yeh, that's mine. That I do take with me. But what I have in the bank, I can't take that with me. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Now, how much you have to give, we'll talk about, and from what you have to give. Source number 5, Sefer Or Zerua. See that? Source number 5, Sefer Or Zerua, one of the Rishonim. The Perikam of the Tainus, Rabbi Yochanan, Aser Tiaser, tithe you shall tithe. Aser B'shul Shetasasher. It's a double lotion. Give 10% in order you should become rich. Aser b'shvil shetetasher. A shin and a sin, there's no dots in the Torah scroll. Right, Shelley? Aser b'shvil shetetasher. Give 10%, and God says, I'll make you rich. Let's make a deal. Monty Hall, he just passed away. He grew up in an Orthodox home. God said, let's make a deal. Aser, you give 10%, b'shvil shetetasher, and this way you'll come rich. Rabbi Yochanan asked Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan found the young child of Shimon ben Lakish. If Shimon ben Lakish had died, he left a young child. Amarli, he said, tell me a pasuk that you learned today in the cheder. So what did the young child tell him? What pasuk did he learn? Aser te aser. Tithe, tithe. Aser te aser. Amaloi aser b'shvil shetes asher. Here. Give 10% in order you should become an osher. Rich. So now, Amalei umi shari l'nasas kodesh baruch hu. Are you allowed to test God? You're not allowed to test God. Source number 5. Ksiv le'tenas Hashem alekechem. It says you're not allowed to test Hashem, your God. So, Omer Rav Oshia, yes, chutz mizu. You're not allowed to test God, but every rule has what? Exception. Tzedakah's exception. Shenemar, there's a pasuk where in Malachi, Malachi, Hevios kol ha'maisel beis ha'oitzer, v'chanani no bezois. And God says, you test me with the mitzvah, Am Hashem Tzavot, Im lo yeftach lachem arubat hashamayim. I'll open up what? The windows of heaven. And I'll give you bracha ad belidai. Ad belidai. Okay? So why is it written aser to aser? So one drash is give 10% to become an osher. But aser to aser literally means 10 plus 10. So what does it mean, Rachmiel? Source number 5, that the minimum you should give is what? 10. That's the minimum. And the maximum is what? 20. Not more than 20%. Aser, give 10. What's the ceiling? To Aser, another 10. The minimum is 10%, the maximum is 20, not to give more than 20% of your income, because then you're making yourself what? Poor.
But the exceptions. One is exceptionally rich. It's very huge income.
I don't know. A halacha says you should not give less than 10 and not more than 20. That's the halacha. Source number 5. We can talk about it more. But the halacha is between 10 and 20. Therefore it says aser te aser. 10 plus 10. Yes?
What kind of a deal is to make with Hashem? What kind of deal? What's the deal?
What's the deal?
What's the deal?
I'll give 10%, make me wealthy. If I was a rich man, da di 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 da da da. You don't make a deal with God. Chava. I'll give 10% and that you'll make me rich, God. That's okay.
That doesn't mean that's what you're going to get it.
What?
Doesn't mean you're going to get it.
God says you can test me.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean the answer is still be no. I'll give 10%.
1 minute.
It
It's-
doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Hmm?
If everything's going to happen, everybody will do it.
Okay, so you're asking Tosfot Kasha. Zisel asked Tosfot Kasha, but she's ahead of me. I'm not there yet. Okay? You asked source number 7, but I'm not there yet. I'm still in source number what? 5. So don't rush me. Zisel, don't rush me. That's source number 7. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? You don't. The end of source. You shouldn't give more, Yaakov. You see the last line in source number 5. A person is not permitted to give more than 1/5 of his assets for tzedakah. How much is 1/5?
20%.
How much? 20%? See that? The Or Zarua, one of the great Rishonim, says you're not permitted to give more than 1/5, 20% of your assets. Okay. Not less than 10, not more than 20. Source number 6. This is Maram Rottenberg. Who is the Maram Rottenberg? The Rebbe of the Rosh. Right? The Rebbe of the Rosh, source number 6. Mois Maise. Now the Torah speaks about tithing your crops and grain. Torah doesn't say anything about tithing your bank account or your stocks and bonds. So the Maram Rottenberg wants to know, how do we know that Meiser also applies to stocks and bonds? The Torah only speaks about tithing your crops. Let's say if I'm not a farmer. So source number 6, you see that? Mois Maise Yira Achre Shachzikil Tatem Lanim Ein Lishanot Al Mitzvah Acheret. Can you use your Maise money to pay the electric bill in shul? Can you use your Maise money to buy a Sefer Torah or Tefillin? Look, Rivka, good thing you came today. Look at source number 6. That's when Rama Rottenberg, and we'll see later on the other poskim agree. Mois Meiser, Yira Achva Shachzikel Laniyim, Ein L'shanotam L'mitzvah Acheret. And you're not allowed to do it for another mitzvah. You can't buy tefillin with it. You can't buy mezuzah with it. You can't buy, pay the electric bill in the shul with it. That's fine. But you can't deduct that from your Meiser money. The Nira Kegoizel Aniyim, because it looks like you're what? Stealing from whom? Poor. Now we get to a punchline. The Afapi She'eino Min HaTorah. Did you know this? Many people don't know this, Rivka. Tithing your money is not Min HaTorah. What's Min HaTorah? Shelley, tithing your crops. So we have to know the difference between Torah law and rabbinic law. We'll talk. There's Torah law, there's rabbinic law. Now we practice rabbinic Judaism, but we must know, Gershon, the difference. So the Rama Rottenberg ruled, the great Rebbe of the Rosh, that tithing your money is not Min HaTorah. What is Min HaTorah? Your crops. Elo minhag. Tithing your money is a minhag. Kaimelon devarim metorim b'acherim nogim b'em iser yato shel atiram b'fneihem. Shenem lo yachal devarim lo yachal b'derabbanan. So even though it's only a rabbinic minhag, we practice rabbinic Judaism. So tithing your crops, that's a mitzvah min HaTorah. Tithing your money is not a mitzvah min HaTorah, it's a rabbinic mitzvah. But we do practice rabbinic Judaism. But you have to know the difference. Okay? So, the end of source number 6 over here. And he says over here, Yisrael shen is davet ner u'menorah lebeis hakneset, muter l'shanos l'mitzvah acheret, t'shan yosem l'ididi mitzvah l'gavoa. Aval mois ma'asek sofim. See, underline Yehuda at the end of 6. Aval mois ma'asek sofim. Money that is supposed to go for meiser money, k'var zoche behem aniyim, that belongs strictly to what? The Torah people, Yidei Minhag, and you can't use that money for any other mitzvah. It's like you're stealing from what? The poor. Shekach nogu kol hagola. This is the Minhag in all hagola, and the diaspora, that Meiser money is strictly for poor people, and you can't not use it for any other mitzvah. Ve'ein l'shanois me'aniyim le'mitzvah acheret. You hear this? You can't use the Meiser money for the poor people for another mitzvah. She'ein la'aniyim Torah, only if the poor people get a benefit from it. Okay.
What do you mean poor?
Poor, someone that can't pay his bills. He can't pay his
With a meal, he has to have 3 meals to be
poor. No, but he can't pay
Beneath the
right? The poverty line. Now we get to Ziesel's question. So the only mitzvah you can make a deal with is with tzedakah. Source number 7. This is my handwriting, Yehuda. It's a little hard to read, but I'll read it to you. Source number 7. Psachim chet. You see source number 7? A person says, I'm giving this charity in the schus that my children will live, or shani ben olam haba, or I'm going to be a ben olam haba. I'm giving this charity only in the condition that I be a ben olam haba, and my children should have a long life. Harezet tzadik gomor. So he's doing it for ulterior motives, Gershom. Yet the Talmud Sochem 8 says he's called tzadik gomor. What does tzadik gomor mean? A perfect tzadik. What does that mean? Says Rashi, b'davar zeh, in this thing. V'lo amrinon, and we don't say shlo lishma, and we don't say he didn't do it lishma. What does lishma mean? For her sake. Who's her? Shechina. Her sake. Her. Who's her? Who's her? The Shechina. God is feminine. Her. Lishma. Elokai mitzvahs bayroi. but he did the mitzvah as creator, shetzavo lasoi tzedakah, u'mischaven af lanoas atzmai, and even though he had his selfish reasons in mind, sheyizka lo'olam haba, sheyichya banav, he's still called what? A tzaddik gomer, no less. No other mitzvah can do that. Can't make a deal with God. I'll eat kosher, I'll make me a millionaire. No, but tzedakah is such a mitzvah that what? That you can make a deal with God. I'm giving this charity that my children will live, I'll be healthy, I'll be rich. Ben olam haba, you're called a tzaddik gomer in this matter, and we don't say you're doing it for selfish reasons, even though you are. That's how much God values what? Tzedakah. Right?
Do not get fulfilled.
Oh, so
you stop giving tzedakah.
1 minute. So you guys both, you ladies are both cooking with gas. Your question is asked on Tosfot, page 8, Psachim. I should have brought it down, but I didn't know you were going to ask me this question, Zisel. Because if I would have known you would ask me this question, I would have wrote the Tosfos down. You see that? I didn't know she was going to ask me about Abraham. But Tosfos Psachim Daf Ches asked your question. The question is as follows. He asked it a little different way. The Mishnah says you're not allowed to be someone that serves the master for what? A manat l'kabel pras. So doesn't this contradict? How can you call the guy a tzaddik gomer? How can you call the guy a tzaddik gomer when the Mishnah says you're not a tzaddik gomer? You're not allowed to serve the master for ulterior motives. So Tosfos answers, let's say your deal doesn't come true. You give the tzedakah, you become a millionaire, your children should live, chas v'shalom, it doesn't work out. And you gave the tzedakah already, and your part of the bargain was not delivered, so if you have charata for giving the tzedakah, then you're not called a tzaddik gomer. But after you give the tzedakah, and God does not do his part for whatever reason, and you don't have, how do you say charata, Yehuda? Regret, you still call it tzaddik gomer. For some reason, maybe God will not keep his part of the Bible. We don't know why. Gilgulim, whatever. So you still call it tzaddik gomer if you're not mitcharet. If you're not mitcharet, you still call it tzaddik gomer. You trust God that he'll do the best for me. And maybe sometimes it's not the best for me to become a millionaire. It's a true story. This janitor who barely made a living won the lottery. It was written up in the Daily News, I remember, before I made Aliyah. And the next night, he was mugged and murdered because he won the lottery. It was a poor janitor, he would still live. So he won the lottery, the Daily News wrote all about it, showed his picture. The next night, someone broke into his apartment, and they mugged and murdered him. So, sometimes it's not good to win the lottery. So if you don't have charata, you're called a tzaddik gomer, even though you didn't do it lishma. What? Test me, right?
You heard the story about this guy who was praying to win the lottery for 50 years?
Right. Actually, it was 75 years. Go ahead.
75 years?
Right.
Because he wanted to build a yeshiva in his parents' name.
Right.
So when he was 80-something years old, he says, Hashem, please.
Right.
Let me win the lottery.
Right. He davened 85 years, 3 times a day with all his heart to win the lottery. And then he dies and never won the lottery. So he get up to Hashem. Hashem said, 85 years I davened 3 times a day. Sincerely win the lottery and I never won. How could you let me down? God said, you verstoppt the cup. Did you ever buy a ticket? What good is your davening 85 years if you didn't buy a ticket? Shtadlut. So happy together. God will only do his part if and when. God help those. You never bought a ticket, then what do you want from me, Hashem says. Now how to divide up the tzedakah. Okay? Now that you don't have, but I'll read it to you. How to divide up the tzedakah. Now you cannot put all your eggs in one basket, right? So the Oy Zarua has a tshuva that a person has a poor relative. Now we know charity begins at home in Judaism. Charity begins at home. Did you know that? If you have a poor relative and someone that's not a relative is poor, who's supposed to get the tzedakah first? Your poor relative. And if you have a brother or a first cousin that's poor, who gets kadima? Your brother. And your brother and a second cousin, a first cousin and a second cousin. First. So, still, even though the closer the relative is, he has a claim on your tzedakah, but you're not allowed to give him all of it. You can't give him all of it. You have to what? Spread it out. Spread it out. So that's what Zarua tells us, that part of it you give to your poor relative, and then the rest you have to what? You cannot give it to one person. You cannot give it to one person. Because that wouldn't be fair. You give him a certain portion, and then the rest you give to Gabbai Tzedakah. Today a Gabbai Tzedakah would be like a fund. Like what? Od Yosef Chai, or Noam Shabbat. That's better than giving individually. Yat Sarah, because they distribute it. Better than giving it to individuals. So a certain portion give to individual poor relatives, but the bulk of it you should give to an organization like Yat Sarah, Noam Shabbat, Od Yosef Chai, etc. Now Yehuda asked me, what type of income do you have to give tithe? Does all income? What? So what about Yerusha? A person inherits wealth. Umaisek Sofim. So Shulchan Aruch rules that what? A person gets a Yerusha, he's allowed to give at Chomesh. You asked me. Shulchan Aruch, you can write it down. Yeridea, Hilchas Tzedakah, Siman Reish Mam Tes. A person is only allowed to give at Chomesh. What does Chomesh mean?
20%.
How much? 20%? Don't be more religious than God.
1/5.
1/5. Write it down. Write it down. Shulchan Aruch, Yeridea, Siman Reish Mam Tes, Hilchas Tzedakah. He speaks about getting Yerusha or any Maisek Sofim at Chomesh. Only up to what? Not less than 10, but not more than what? 1/5 to 20%. Shana Rishona Ma'akeren. So, if you got Yerusha, Yehuda, so the first year, you have to give 10% from the Keren of the Yerusha. How do you say Keren in English? The principal. The first year, right, you inherit what, $1 million? So the first year, so you have... No. The Shulchan Aruch, there's no machlokus here. From the first year, you should give Shana Rishona Ma'akeren, Mikan ve'elech, beautiful rack on the ribit. Mikan ve'elech at chomesh she'arevach b'chol shana. So the first year of the Yerusha, you give 10% from the principal. And Mikan ve'elech, what does Mikan ve'elech mean? From here on out, all the other years, up until 1/5 on the revach b'chol hashana. Up until 1/5 of the revach mean, the interest of every year. Okay? And the Ramah, glad you came today. And the Ramah stresses, V'lo yotem achomish. Not allowed to give more than 1/5. You're not writing it down. It's the Yoredeya, Siman Reish Ma'ametesh Hilchas Tzedakah. The Mechaber and the Ramah both say, V'lo yotem achomish. You're not permitted to give more than 1/5 of your income for tzedakah. 1/5 to 20%.
No matter what your income.
That's what he says. V'lo yotem, Ramah stresses V'lo yotem achomesh, and not more than 1/5, 20%. Now, and the Ramah says Ve'ein lasot mi ma'aseh shelo davar mitzvah. You can't use that ma'aseh money for another mitzvah. Kagon nerot lebet hakneset. You want to pay for the electric bill for the shul. You want to sponsor a kiddush, or buy tzitzis or tefillin or a sefer Torah. You can't use your Maisa money for that. Or shad mitzvah, rak li'aniyim. You can only use that money for what? For poor people. Otherwise, it's like you're stealing from the poor. Now, what about your money in the bank? So the Igros Moshe, Yeridea, Chelik Bet, Simin Kof Yod Gimel, writes, Shalavochim babank. He writes babank. Shalavochim babank. Was the revach? How do you say revach in English? Profit. The profit, the interest that you get in the bank or bank, avor aksof misheniach sham, because of the money that you left there. Hu kedin kol revachim. This has a din like what? all profits, shetzorech litein ma'aseh ksafim, that you're obligated to give what? 10% of your monetary income, even though it's only the Rabbanan, because min HaTorah, only crops you have to give 10%, but the rabbis, Yehuda, extended it to what?
Money.
To money as well. To money as well. Okay? And you can't use that Maisa money for any other mitzvah. That just goes for what? For people, for poor people. So today you don't know really who is poor. And I wouldn't repeat the Zisel unless I read it of Shlomo Avinar, the great tzaddik, the chief rabbi of Bethel. No? Rabbi Ner, thank you. I wouldn't repeat this Rivka unless I saw it in one of his that he gives out on Shabbos. He says, these guys that come knocking on your door or they come schnorring, you shouldn't give them. If you want to really give Maisa money, give it to an irgun. Organization, not the Irgun Etzel. Very good. Old Yosef Chai, Noam Shabbat, Meir Panim, Amutat, that has a mutat that is registered because they know who to give. They give to people, they check the person's bank account before they give the person money. So they can't be swindlers. Make sure your money's not swindled, says Avinar. You're working hard for the money. Who's saying that? So give it to a mutah, because they check out the people. And they make sure that they really need it before they give him the money. That's what your money should give, right? Or Yatsara, yes?
How much is your giving of charity allowed to depend on your likes and dislikes?
For instance, what's your question?
Suppose I don't like my brother and I like my cousin. The halacha is you're supposed to give to the closest.
That's right, that's halacha. You're supposed to give.
How do you handle that?
So,
Are you giving it because it's... No, suppose a guy comes to your door.
right,
And he really is poor. Right? But you don't like him.
yeah,
Right? Are you allowed to not give him
because you don't like him.
Just said,
How
don't
much-
give to anybody who comes to you.
Well, I don't mean... I mean...
Rav Aviner said should not give, I wouldn't repeat this, don't give the schnorrers because who knows where the money is going. Maybe it's going for drugs, maybe it's going for cigarettes. Give to a organization, he said.
Rabbi Sprecher, I'm asking you...
But if you have a poor brother, or really you know that he's poor, you should give him part of it, not all of it. Or poor cousin, if you know that he's poor. Because he's your relative, you know that he's living in a shabby apartment and he's threatened to be evicted.
Maybe he's got bad taste. The question is, how much... If I have to give tzedakah,
Right,
is it allowed to depend on my personal feeling? In other words, let's say I have likes and dislikes of
Right.
my own, and therefore I will give to a certain stuff because I like it, not because it's a mitzvah. I have a possibility of getting the same mitzvah for two different reasons or two different people.
but you know,
And one I like more than the other.
Lefum Tsar Agra. Lefum Tsar Agra, what does that mean?
From Saragra.
According to the pain is the gain. So according to the pain is the gain.
Yeah, no.
Shortest Mishnah in Shas, 3 words.
Yeah.
Lefum Tsar Agra, it's not a Pepsi commercial. Pepsi took that. According to the pain is the gain. The more it costs you to do the mitzvah, financially, emotionally, you don't want to do it, and you do it, you're getting greater reward. Because there's resistance, and you do it anyway, the reward is greater. So when there's a mitzvah to be done, and you feel resistance for whatever reason, and you do it anyway, you know you're getting what? More reward. According to the pain is the gain. Lefum Tsar Agra. What?
You give it to the levy that you want to, you give it to the code that you want
But
to.
not, you cannot give all of it. That's what the halacha says.
You can choose who you give your money
You can, but not all of it. Of course you can choose, but not in one bulk. You have to spread it out. Spread it out, yes?
So there was this,
Spread the wealth.
there was this yid in the old city. His name was Rabbi Sprecher.
Right?
You know, if you remember. Who.
Yes. Olav Shalom.
Once asked Rav Nimsol, the Rav of the old city,
Right?
if he should continue to give tzedakah to this Russian guy that was a drunk in the old city because he uses the money for alcohol.
For alcohol.
So the Rav told him, yes, give it to him because that's what he needs. That's what he needs to get tzedakah. Give it to him.
I can't understand that. Because he's destroying his liver. Can you give a person arsenic?
You give him the money, he can do with it what he...
But if you know he's going to use it for drugs or alcohol, I don't think you're allowed to give it to him. I respectfully and humbly do not agree. You know the guy's going to buy drugs. You're allowed to give him the money? Why you're not over lifnei iver lo titen michshol? What does that mean? Don't put a stumbling block in front of money. You know he's going to use the money for drugs and alcohol. Why you're not allowed to give it to him? I can't understand. I don't think he could have said that. I don't think he could have said that. The guy's destroying his liver. You're helping him kill himself. Are you allowed to do that? Let's say, mitzvah, 1 second, Sonia. The mitzvah of kibbut aveim. You have to listen to your father. Your father says, go out and buy me a pack of cigarettes. On the double. Are you allowed to listen?
No.
I'm commanding you. I'm your father. Who wiped your runny nose and who stayed up with you when you had measles and changed your dirty diapers? I'm commanding you, the mother, buy me a pack of cigarettes. Are you allowed to listen, Sonia?
Depends on the brand.
No, because of poison. Some have more nicotine.
You're not allowed to listen. It's like the parent says, buy me a pound of arsenic on the double. You're not allowed to listen. Lifnei iver lo titen michshol. Or the father says, go out and buy me a ham sandwich. You allowed to listen? No. He's destroying his soul or destroying his body. You're not allowed to listen. You cannot listen to a person to help him self-destruct. Not allowed to. So I can't understand that. I hope you're not saying it correctly. I can't believe it. Helping the person but helping the person destroy his liver? I don't understand that. Versteh nicht. Lamdeinu Rabbeinu. Beinish, versteh nicht. No, really. You understand that?
That's what the Baines try would have said.
I don't understand, really.
He was a moderate drinker. That was it. He was drinking...
A little bit of poison, not much. A little bit of arsenic. Huh?
Because the guy was an alcoholic doesn't mean he was going to take every single piece of...
But he's killing me slowly with each drink, killing me slowly with each drink, killing me. And you're helping him by giving him the money? You think you're doing a mitzvah, and you're actually doing what? An avera?
Isn't a little good, Rabbi?
What?
A little drinking is good.
A little bit. How much is a little?
One glass of wine a day.
1 cigarette a day. What?
Well, no, that's another story, Rabbi. We'll talk later.
Doctors say that each cigarette you smoke shortens your life by 5 to 7 minutes. Every cigarette. Between 5 to 7 minutes. Every cigarette. Killing you softly. Huh? Not allowed to do that. I can't understand these religious people that smoke. I'll tell you why I can't understand. I can't understand. I'll tell you why. There's a halacha in the Ramah says in Yoredeya, if let's say a piece of pig falls into a big vat of cholent, and you can't find a piece of pig, and it gets dissolved in the vat of, and there's 60 kosher meat in that pot, and you can't determine what happened, which way did they go, what happened to the pig. So what's the halacha, Yael? What? You can eat the whole, even your charedi, but you can eat the whole cholent with the pig in there, because it's bottle b'shishim. That's the halacha. You don't throw it out. The halacha is, Maddie, you eat it because it becomes dissolved, annulled in shishim. You cannot identify it. Right? Of course, if you can identify it, you have to throw it out. But if you cannot identify it, it gets all swallowed up, mixed up. The halacha is golden bottle b'shishim. You can eat the whole children with the pig in it. But the Ramah says, let's say a little bit of poison falls in. Not pig. A little bit of tobacco or a little bit of arsenic falls in. And even those 10,000 what? 10,000 what?
1/10,000.
even 10,000 in this huge vat, you have to throw out the entire cholent. Because there are more paskins. That sekanta chamura miyasura. Sekanta, a danger to health, is more strict than pig. Pig becomes bottle v'shishim and nullified in 60. But a little bit of poison, Zisel, even it's 10,000 to 1, not 60 to 1. What's the Rav Nochem? You have to throw out the whole chulent. Because an isser, something that's dangerous to your health, is more severe in halacha than eating forbidden food. So how can these Haredi Jews who would what? Not eat pig, how could they smoke? I don't understand.
There was a time when it was thought, 100 years ago, it was thought that smoking was healthy.
But now they know otherwise. There's no excuse now. There's no excuse. Rabbi Yosef brings down the Yalkut Yosef that any Jew that smokes is chayiv malchus. He should be whiplashed. He's breaking a Torah law. Ushmatem, there's a mitzvah Torah, you shall guard your health and not harm yourself. You're not allowed to cause yourself bodily harm. So by smoking, a person transgresses a positive mitzvah. He's not guarding his health. And a negative mitzvah, you're not allowed to harm yourself. So there is no rationalization. They say they can't help it, they're addicted. They're addicted. So what kind of excuse is that? That's what the homos say. They can't help themselves. They're addicted. What kind of cop-out is that? Judaism teaches, we shall overcome. Right? You're supposed to struggle with the Yetzer Hara. You're supposed to defeat it. The cop-out, you can't help yourself. You're addicted. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. So anyway, so we learned today the mitzvah of Maisik Safim. Even though it's only rabbinic, we do practice rabbinic Judaism. And the best place to give your 10% is to spread it out by different organizations. And I can name a few that I know that are trustworthy. Noam Shabbat, Od Yosef Chai, Meir Panim, and others, because they check out, before they give the person, they check out if he really needs it. Otherwise, they won't give it to him. And you so know that your Maisik Safim is going what? In the right place, in the right place.
So when did you say we're allowed to test God?
By tzedakah. Just by tzedakah. I'm giving this money to Meir Panim, or I'm giving this money to what? To Old Yosef Chai, or to what? Noam Shabbat. Hashem will make me rich. Right? So even though I don't become rich, and I don't have charot, I'm called a tzaddik gomer. You can test God. Right? God says, test me. Believe in me.
It takes a superhuman not to have charata. If he thinks he's going to get a reward,
And he doesn't get it.
doesn't, it's very difficult, I think.
But he will get it.
But
He'll get it. If not now, he'll get it later. It's now. He won't get it now. He'll get it later. What's rich? God says, I'll make you rich. I'll make you rich. But
you want to have somebody to be healthy.
Right.
Sick. You pray for them.
And it doesn't happen.
You give tzedakah and
So Hashem didn't keep his bargain. He'll be healthy in Olam Haba, Rivka. So he'll be healthy in Olam Haba.
Yeah, I know, but
That's what you have. What?
But the person will know. Human nature is such.
You have charata.
The person will say, why didn't you, answer my prayers?
Maybe God did answer your prayers. That he'll be what?
No, the answer was no.
The answer is what?
That's also an answer.
That's also an answer. What? No is also an answer. What? But we know Father knows best. Right? Father knows best. And even though we don't understand, whatever God does, is l'tovah. But you're allowed to make this deal. And you're called a tzaddik gomer, no less. Even though you have selfish motives. No other mitzvah can you do that. Only when it comes to what? To make a deal with God. Right? Now the Talmud does teach in Psachim 50, Tainus 7, La'olam yasik adam b'tor mitzvah shalol lishma, shem tov shalol lishma ba'al lishma. But that's not testing God. I don't want nothing in return, but I'm doing it for my own selfish reasons. So a person is allowed to do mitzvahs in Torah for selfish reasons, even not tzedakah, as long as he doesn't test God. The only mitzvah you're allowed to test God is what? Is tzedakah. But any mitzvah, you can do for selfish reasons, as long as you don't make a deal with God. Toch shalol lishma, ba lishma. What does that mean?
When you do it not for ulterior motives.
Eventually you'll graduate, right? Eventually you'll graduate. You're doing the mitzvah, you want to impress the neighbor, you want to impress the girl, you want to impress people. You're not making no deal with God. You're doing it because you want to impress people. Should you do it?
Yes.
Yes, Nike, just do it. Judaism, remember Nike, just do it. Because if you do it for the wrong reasons, eventually you'll what?
Do it for the right reason.
For the right reasons. But the only mitzvah that you can make a deal with God and test Him, that mitzvah is only what? Tzedakah. We have a class on Thursday at 2:30, right?
So you're giving tzedakah all year round.
Right.
So how do you keep track if it's 10% or 20%? Unless you write it down in a book.
So you have to have a book. You have to write down everything, right? Not less than 10, not more than 20.
People who have a whole book.
That's right. Religious, God-fearing people have a what's it called? Pinkas? Pinkas.
Oh, an Excel
A notebook. What?
An Excel spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Okay, to keep track of it.
It's easier.
Okay. Thank you very much.